Batgirl canceled. Next up on Just to Talk. So let's talk about it. And welcome to the Flicks, Picks, and the Nitpicks. And I am your humble host, Nove718. And we're going to get right to the nitty gritty. What everyone is talking about is the cancellation of the Batgirl movie. Now this has been buzzing all throughout amongst scoopers and whatnot. And I'm going to have a conversation about scoopers in another, probably in the next installment. But I want to stay focused on the Batgirl because there's a lot of new swirling information coming out. And I think there's going to be some definitives a little bit later on this week. And I read a Variety article that elaborates on it a little bit more. So how I want to break this down was my first reactions when I seen it on my feed. I seen it from a couple of sources and internet fandom groups that I kind of orbit. I watch and I listen. I get a lot of movie information too. That's why I wanted to do Just to Talk, so we could just jump right into the conversation. It's not exactly editorial or breaking news or breaking the news down. It's just getting into the conversation like we were in a comic book shop, chopping it up, or outside nerding around. If you was into the comic books or into just films and moving, the artistry and the business of it, we're gonna hit the water cooler and chop up madness about it, chop up mad conversations about it. And the big talk is the Batgirl has been shelved indefinitely. Now that sounds like what it says by definition indefinite means, but they're saying that, at least as the conversation seems to be orbiting, we never know what can happen with it. This is before I read the Variety source. Now, there's one source that normally gets a lot of scoops that hasn't been... We don't know what the end result of the scoop thing will be. We just know as it comes and it's flying directly in the face of what she's been putting out there. Then there's been a little bit beefs, scoop beefs, which I don't really understand personal. Well, I understand monetarily and just the way the energy of fandom has been moving and sliding, but I really don't get it, because if you get a source, I get a source, then yeah, it may be conflict with your business in terms of who has the true information if you're putting it out there. But a scoop is a scoop is a scoop, unless someone is straight up faking, or you just get bad scoops, bad intel. That being said, it's being presented one way as, for those that are, this getting pulled started to look right around the time that they actually did some reshoots for the Flash movie. I want to get it right on an order. So people assume that this means that the Snyderverse is coming back. It's possible, but let's think a little bit more practical, because here, at least on this side of the aisle, I don't want to create my space as team this, team that. You don't have to be a Restore the Snyderverse person. That's me. But I'm like I said, I don't just talk Snyderverse stuff. I actually have a channel on here where I specifically could just talk to that, which I will be resuming very soon. I've been meaning to focus on Road to the Snyderverse. Since the Snyderverse is here, I may have to rebrand it, but I'm going to use that part to continue further information about the Snyderverse, and we could do a little bit more speculation, have chit chat, and even if they don't bring the Snyderverse back, we can at least do some mining and go over it and just really like have some fun, but make it a documentary thing, because there's some things I've been wanting to do with that as a major editorial on here that I'll talk about later. But I don't want to be, because I'm into the Snyderverse and I am the fan of the Snyderverse, and I'm one of those guys that hashtag Restore the Snyderverse, because I was hashtagged release the Snyder Cut for quite some time, that I don't want to be misguided. I want to be smart. I want to be in the pocket. I want to be down the middle. I don't want to be biased. about how I present my information to you, no matter what I believe or don't believe. But as it stands, it got pulled off. Now, what are the main reasons that it could be that they could have pulled Batgirl? Well, one, Batgirl has to come after Flash, because the way Flash was supposed to be done was to reset the universe, may even put the Snyderverse in a pocket universe. And this is all hearsay and scoop rumors, but we got enough information to assume that they were going to ride the middle. Not completely obliterated, but we knew before they wanted to leave, they wanted to make sure these movies went out to turn the conversation in a different direction before WB gets to it, to stick it to either Snyder, the fandoms, and all the malarkey around it, because now it's gotten personal between both sides. Not going to dig any further here on that. But that being said, Hamada and everyone else that was installed was to navigate it away from the Snyderverse, because everybody hated the Snyderverse. And if you ask me if there was any bots behind anything, there could have been bots behind that movement. But that's more speculation. Because if you pay attention to the timeline, if you want to take that one article from Rolling Stone as Snyder was like one of the agents of file because all these little things was a little funny, I wouldn't be surprised if you look before that, there was something funny going on with a movement to push Zack Snyder out that spilled into, if you ask me, the YouTube space, because it was kind of ridiculous how Snyder was getting lambasted with so much hate off of BVS, and BVS was not a horrible film. You know what I'm saying? But that's subjective, so I have to respect the fact that some people don't see it like I see. I think Man of Steel is a masterpiece, to quote John Campea, of the genre, because I really believe that. And that's an island he doesn't have to stand alone on. People didn't like it. It got mixed reviews from a lot of fans. Go figure. Some people just, and if you really talk to people, it's not that the movie wasn't good. They just didn't like that rendition of Superman, which was weird because it's still Superman, but we're not going to have that conversation. So, with that being said, if the Flash, Hamada, and that regime was supposed to navigate it away, this was where you was about to see the fruition of what they were trying to achieve to navigate it away from the Snyderverse. Here goes an interesting catch-22 someone even brought up. Batgirl could not come out even though it's ready to go before the Flash, because the Flash sets up this universe. And if it sets up this universe where there is no Superman, then all these other movies are going to be from another universe. Was Blue Beetle, I was about to say Bumblebee. Was Blue Beetle going to be out of that new augmented universe? That's possible, because that was going to be the new direction where they were going to go with the franchise. With Zaslav being very clear about wanting to focus on the Trinity, and these movies already in the can, with Ezra Miller's shenanigans and people not really sure what's to make of the Flash, now they're going to bring Ben Affleck back. And more than likely, as the rumor mill is going, they're going to remove Bruce, or add him to the Flash ending, because of whatever they're trying to achieve now. Because the problem is if they throw Batgirl out first, how you gonna explain this Michael Keaton being in there? So they figured if you bring in Ben Affleck at the end of the film, maybe it could probably change things, narratively speaking. Now, thinking about it, if Michael Keaton's Batman is all throughout Ezra Miller's joint, unless they're trying to make it so that when Ezra Miller is done, Michael Keaton stays in his universe. But if he stays in his universe, then the multiple film deal that he has, where will that go? Unless you're going to have, because you already have Robert Pattinson's Batman. Now you're going to have Ben Affleck back, or you're going to, then what you're going to do with Michael Keaton, because he already filmed his scenes for The Flash. So unless you're going to change the ending so that this is it for Michael Keaton, possibly, unless they need to bring him back. But if that's the case, where the hell is Batgirl going to exist then? Because that means her aesthetic, if it's in the Michael Keaton universe, is going to look completely different. Gotham is going to look different. You know, look at his Batmobile. Like, it's going to look different unless he's not playing technically Batman from Tim Burton's universe. This is a skewed version of Thomas Wayne, just utilizing all that we've seen from the Tim Burton universe. Again, that's going to make it a little murky and confusing. So we're not even 100% sure Michael Keaton is playing Bruce Wayne's Batman. We're not sure. Keep in mind, the gentleman that played Thomas Wayne in the Snyderverse said that he was unavailable to be in the film, meaning, or possibly meaning, that he was actually reached out to for this film to suggest that he just didn't have the scheduling for it. So they moved forward with Michael Keaton, which would be fair, and then just say that he's Thomas Wayne. I'll let you have that. But then now you're pimping everything from Tim Burton's universe. Notice how this starts to get a little bit more muddled. Now that we're seeing multiverse with Marvel and we're competing with Marvel. Now, this isn't the Batman from Tim Burton, but we're making nothing but nods to it by using all the gadgets and all the stuff from that film. But we're just going to say that this is Thomas Wayne. See how confusing it is? So they probably went back to try to alter a lot of that to make it a little bit more in sync with the larger narrative. But now here goes another thing. If we're not sure about when Ezra Miller movie is going to come out, because we're not even sure what to do with Ezra Miller, and way more money went into Ezra Miller's film, then what do we do with Batgirl? Because Batgirl's set in a universe that it seems that now if Zaslav has entered the building and he is nuking a lot of things and he wants to redirect the DC brands and make it more cohesive and compete with their Marvel counterpart, then what do? Most people will say, well, you can't just scrap this film. You got to make a return. Otherwise, you're just in the hole. And that's where I wasn't really sure about where we would go with this, because what makes more sense? It's easy for me to say they're working on the Snyderverse. I would love to say that. But I don't want to lie to you guys, because I'm a type of gentleman that I look for where the money is first. There is money in the Snyderverse, without a doubt. But it comes with a lot of problems. People don't understand. Our fandom has it carries a weight of baggage no studio wants to deal with. So is it cheaper to scrap everything? Well, we have Matt Reeves going, but Matt Reeves ain't ready to introduce all these other new superheroes into his film. So what do you do now? Because he already signed for 3 films to tell his story. So unless you're going to build that world up and then spend everything out of that, you still have your Trinity, and people are young enough to still carry forward with what you have. But you're going to have to go about this very well done in such a manner to stitch everything back to place and omit what you don't need, and moving forward complete this story. But again, here's the problem. If you don't bring Snyder back, then it's going to be a whole lot of issues. If you continue what Walter Hamada did, more issues. And then the WB brand is not looking good. Now, I'm setting this all up because this article Variety wrote helps to fill in a lot of blanks that no one else is discussing. I didn't want to read it, but I think I'm just going to have to read this mofo. So, we're going to read the Variety article. It doesn't seem to, it's not that long, so we're just going to go right to it. And this was written August 2nd, 2022, today, 5:17 p.m., all right, Pacific time. Well, anyway, why Warner Brothers killed Batgirl inside the decision not to release the DC movie. The death of Batgirl on Tuesday sent immediate shockwaves through Hollywood. The film, with a $75 million budget that grew to $90 million due to COVID-related overages, had finished shooting months ago and was in test screenings as directors Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, Bad Boys for Life, and Mrs. Marvel worked through the post-production process. Star Leslie Grace in The Heights had given multiple interviews expressing her enthusiasm for landing the title role and working with co-stars Michael Keaton as Batman and J.K. Simmons as her character's father, Commissioner Gordon, and Brendan Fraser as the villain Firefly. In other words, the movie was nearly finished and already building awareness amongst fans. Why would Warner Brothers Discovery throw all that away? According to sources with knowledge of the situation, the most likely reason: taxes. Pay attention to this part, because this is excellent, like how they lay this out. Because first, matter of fact, let's just read the article. Several sources note that Batgirl was made under a different regime at Warner Brothers, headed by Jason Kilar and Ann Sarnoff, that was singularly focused on building its streaming service, HBO Max. That effort included Kilar's infamous decision to release the studio's entire 2021 theatrical slate simultaneously on the streamer, which helped build the subscriber base, but also jeopardized the studio's reputation with top-tier talent, though many agents and stars privately came to appreciate the move when the company made generous bonuses as a make nice. Even before David Zaslav took the reins of the newly formed Warner Brothers Discovery as CEO this spring, the exec went on a well-publicized listening tour designed to repair the company's relationship with the creative community. As part of that effort, Zaslav made no secret of reversing Kilar's strategy and committing to releasing first-run feature films in theaters before putting them on HBO Max. Batgirl found itself on the bad end of that decision, apparently neither big enough to feel worthy of a major theatrical release, nor small enough to make economic sense in an increasingly cutthroat streaming landscape. Spending the money to expand the scope of Batgirl for theaters, plus the $30 million to $50 million needed to market it domestically, and the tens of millions more needed for a global rollout, could have nearly doubled spending on the film. And insiders say that was a non-starter at a company newly focused on belt tightening from the bottom line. Spokespeople for Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers Discovery declined to comment for this story. Pay attention, because these are the same. Warner Brothers had a lot to say about Zack Snyder, but at least Warner Brothers Discovery is keeping their lips on both articles. Pay attention. Releasing the movie on HBO Max would seem to be the most obvious solution. Instead, the company has shelved Batgirl, along with the Scoob sequel, and several sources say it will almost certainly take a tax write-down on both films, seen internally as the most financially sound way to recoup the costs, at least on an accountant's ledger. It could justify that by chalking it up as a post-merger chance of strategy. Doing so, however, would mean that Warner Brothers cannot monetize either movie on HBO Max debut nor sell to another studio. What the decision will cost at the studio in creative capital, meanwhile, remains to be seen. And this article was written by Adam B. Very and Brent Lang. I want you to think about that, because that last part said enough. They're not sure what it could do. They said Zaslav was already quoted saying that Batgirl would have to go directly to theaters. He said this before all the shenanigans with Ezra Miller. Pay attention. And the article, we got to take into consideration, the article came out on Rolling Stone, that hit piece on Zack Snyder. And for a day or two, everybody was talking about it. Zack Snyder took a hit on his personality with that. Though a lot of people think that the moving aggressive force was probably his wife. We don't know. That's all speculation. But this was already on the circling. For them to scrap Batgirl could be a couple of reasons. One, with all the hiccups around the DCEU, what do? You already have a black Batgirl that we weren't so sure if that was going to roll over. But when you got so much shit going on all around your franchise, and you brought back the commissioner, the same commissioner that was in another universe, and not to say that they can't look the same. You haven't explained variants. We get all of that from the MCU. We probably will get all of these variant informations, that, if you will, the way that the Loki series explained it in The Flash, but we don't know if the Flash movie is going to come out because Ezra Miller just is a PR nightmare right now. So what do you do when you're hanging on to the Flash and you put so much money into it? And one thing that seems to be consistent with the rumor mill is everybody thinks that Flash movie is excellent. But if that Flash movie is excellent, and I heard that from what I remember hearing, the Batgirl was seemingly good. So why not go to theaters? But now if you have to weigh it out, you're not sure if people are going to receive this Batgirl movie well. Because one, you're starting with a black Batgirl, which hasn't been as much an issue right now as what the hell is going on with the universe. But her film is a byproduct of whatever happens and doesn't happen, if it's changed or not changed in The Flash. Because I don't know if anyone knows, and you're with your accountants, and they're sitting here and telling you, we could recoup that and just charge it to, that's what they did beforehand, and we could write that whole film off as a tax write-off, but we can't flip that movie. That movie gotta get vaulted. We can't do nothing with it. Because once we get our taxes back and we get our money back for this, because this was in production before we came in and we could kind of ride it off, then you know what? Which is the lesser of two evils? Flash, I don't know if they could ride Flash off. They could probably ride off a $90 million movie as opposed to another movie that might have ballooned up to, I think, over $200 million on the in production costs, because it's up there for the Flash, and with all the issues around it, and Flash is so closely tied to what Zack Snyder built, it's gonna be hard to do that. Now, let's also take in consideration one other idea, that Zack was shooting stuff that he was supposed to in his yard that added Amber Heard. Not his fault. Everything came out through the wash after the fact. But with this hit piece on Zack Snyder, it could actually make Zaslav look at Zack like, I don't need someone going rogue in my stable either. I would like to work with him, but I can't have him just doing, because him shooting that now puts Mirror back in play. Because if we wanted to just do the Nightmare sequence as a series, we can't even do that now with Mirror, Amber Heard's, the actress, her issues now kind of making the brand look bad. That's something that I don't think that's a big major thing, but that's something that I felt like it needed to be noted. And now let me bring it all in. When you look at the timeline of how everything lands out, and it seems that Zaslav was willing to deal with the Snyderverse and bring it back. There was some money to be made. Look at the physical copy sales. Look at the streaming. I don't know if the streaming was, I know the streaming was good. I don't know if it was off the charts. We don't know. Only they know. And I know Zaslav knows there's currency in this universe because everybody wants to see Henry Cavill come back. At least that's something that we're definitely sure about. So, what is the smart move? I'd rather scrap Batgirl. Scrap Batgirl. If you can make a return on it, get it out the way so this movie doesn't confuse your universe. Because that's the first movie in another universe. People got to remember, that's a movie set in an alternate universe outside of the Snyderverse. And we've already heard he wants to focus on the Trinity. That movie is a quagmire to a universe where you already have your Trinity there. You have Batman, you have Superman, you have Wonder Woman. Unless you're going to reset everything. I could see Zaslav reset everything. Just a clean slate. No shade to no one. Just, I don't want to deal with it. Or make Zack wrap up his film trilogy so it could start a rebirth and reset everything. Where you can at least, it looks like it's going towards a fiscal end. So when it finally ends, then you could catch up to what Matt Reeves did when he gets to part 3 and maybe boot a new universe through there. Because that's going to be the only other alternative unless you start another brand new universe outside of that. And that's the problem. They don't want to have too many theatrical Batman. You already have one Batman universe. You want to streamline this, and I think that's what Zaslav is going to do. He's going to aim to streamline. He can't stop what Matt Reeves is doing, but he can control his DCEU at large. And I think that's the design he's going to go and find a way to bring that all the way to meet up to Matt Reeves' version, and they could reboot brand new Wonder Woman, a brand new Superman, and they could probably do that all through his universe and still continue these stories and tell fresh new stories moving forward. But it's not about what I think. Let me know what you think. Am I onto something? Because I really do believe that they scrapped the movie because there was more. Cut your losses if you can make it on the back end. That movie will confuse people on where we're going, especially when we don't even know what we're gonna do with Ezra. So what's a smart move if you gotta make a quick decision? Scrap it. Even if the movie's halfway decent, we'll have to do too much twisting and stitching just to make that shit make sense to whatever decision or direction we decide to go with the universe moving forward, if we're going to continue using the actors that we already have in the playground that was already built. I don't think that this was a shot at Batgirl being a bad movie. It was, Batgirl is tied to another movie that has too many problems. From the actor and the universe is spun out of. It just is what it is. And if you're a hustler, a person that just bought this business, do you want a lot of problems with your property, or do you want everything to be copacetic? And I think that's what he's going for. Batgirl is gonna open up way too many questions. He probably seen it and says, yo, this shit, what can I do with this? Yeah, the movie might be good and all that, but it has nothing to do with what he wants for a universe, a cohesive universe. It's just so off the rails somewhere else, and we haven't established our universe in a healthy way. It's so fractured. You have to fix the fracture before you keep moving forward, or scrap everything and start anew. I think he's cutting everything off to fix this fracture. In terms of, do I believe they're restoring the Snyderverse? I think it's still possible, but I think we got to be realistic. Too much is going on, and it's not just the fans. It's Warner Brothers' reactionary strategies from prior. and they enlisted a whole new team to do something completely different, right when now people want you to go back to what you hired these guys to move away from the beginning, and things are in place. They did things to move people out the way so they could do this. Now they're setting up for this. Now you want us to go backwards, and then because they're already steaming forward, then the fan community is beefing with you guys. Now it's adversarial. Now no one know what they can do when someone else buys a property. Now people don't know what to do, because we either go back, we're gonna offend other people's fans. If we go forward with what the new regime was doing, then we may get backlash from the other fandom. If we wipe the slate clean and start all over again, we maybe have a chance. And I think, especially with the rumor mill about HBO Max might be a dub as a streaming service and move everything over to Discovery, I think what he's trying to do is rebrand. HBO Max will have if you're trying to focus on your DCEU, HBO Max carries that disdain. This is a new company, so they don't want they want to remove themselves as much from the strategies from the older crowd and move forward with what Discovery is doing. And since Discovery bought WB, Discovery is going to make sure you see Discovery first, at least on streaming, because that's where they made their bones. In terms of theatrically speaking and things of that nature, they're going to keep the brand Warner Brothers Discovery, because Warner Brothers has a bigger brand recognition. Even the studio lot, you don't want to lose the Warner Brothers name. It's just too much favor with that. DC, this will be a way to move DC under a new title, ship a new brand, a new streaming service where you can now streamline, categorize, and organize your extended universe. But again, I think this was more about what can we do with our monetary losses, because you want to make that flip. I'd rather ride this one off. We'll lose less, and there's no guarantee it will do big box office. Like you may break even with this movie. If I may break even with this movie, but it could confuse my universe, especially if I want to go another direction from what they did, and that's in a whole new universe that I don't plan on even doing nothing with. Because if Blue Beetle was supposed to be in that universe, best believe they're rewriting that shit so it's in the DCEU proper, as opposed to this brand new universe that they were trying to kick off with. They already said that they scrapped. I already heard rumors that they shelved Batgirl. Do the math. Supergirl. So they shelved for Supergirl, shelved for Batgirl. He wants to focus on his Trinity. Whether Zack Snyder heads it or not, I think the next sequel will be probably Man of Steel 2, which might be a prequel to BVS. There you could do but then do a Trinity movie that comes off of Zack Snyder's Justice League. If you were smart, put out the air cut before you drop that. Drop Henry Cavill, but drop the information that Henry Cavill's coming back. You're doing Superman 2. I drop my bad. I drop it. What I would do is, alright, I drop the information Henry Cavill's coming back to do Superman 2. Then I would drop the David Ayer cut. People will be hyped for David Ayer cut. You'll get Curry a lot of fan loyalty. You'll bring them back. Now, if that Ayer cut is way better than the first one, you're in a good space. Then re-release Zack Snyder's Justice League in the theaters, for a limited time and make that the official film, then say Man of Steel 2 takes place before BVS, and then after that, then you could continue the story. So now you could, if you watched it in order now, everything could kind of flow seamlessly. So so when he dies, so if you was watching in order, watch Man of Steel 2, where he's more like the Superman that people want, so to speak. He dies in BVS, so that closes his end cap. So that would be kind of like a Superman trilogy all on its own. He's rebirthed in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then you could do the Trinity movie afterwards, and that could lead into Justice League 2 and 3. I would do it like that, and then make the Nightmare series something that's just on streaming if you want to do that. And you could clean up that way. And then you could do a Nightmare movie between that and maybe Justice League between 2 and 3, or whatever, however that season in the Nightmare sequence ends, it continues in the last final installment of Justice League, where everything converges, Justice League 3, and everything converges all into one, and it encaps everything, either from a Aquaman 3 and a Wonder Woman 3, and you could kind of, everybody gets their trilogy, if you will, and hopefully by then there would have been a Ben Affleck Batman, or at least a Ben Affleck Batman series, and then now you can actually have a dope box set, and how that ends and goes into Crisis after that, and then you can reboot from there, and then now really start from scratch with your DCEU. But that's just what I'm thinking, just an idea on my end. Let me know what you guys think. I went on long enough. You leave it in the comments below. You already know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. See you next time. And as always, till I have a good outro. Chill.